Well, we're delighted to welcome our next presenter to the stage. Ryan Wilday has over 17 years experience trading equities, futures, and options. He began trading cryptocurrencies in 2013, and today he melds his deep knowledge of the cryptocurrency market with Elliott Wave theory. In August 2017, Mr. Wilday launched his cryptocurrency trading service on ElliottWaveTrader.net. Ryan, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you. The stage is yours.
Thank you. All right. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon out here from San Francisco area. Nice rainy afternoon for me. So a little Bitcoin goes a long way, and it should be obvious from the title. What I'm going to do is make a case for having Bitcoin in a large portfolio, and spend some time trying to quell the fears. I think that's quite often where people come from if they're not familiar with the asset class. So we'll talk about that. Jordan gave me a great introduction. I would say also as well, in regards to service, we've also added a lot of algo trading as part of the service, meaning that I provide computerized or quantitative signals. And at the same time, we may be launching a sister service on Seeking Alpha. So that's kind of hot off the press. We're at least in discussions, but we've been public about those discussions. Just some of my history. I don't want to, oh, by the way, do ask for the presentation in the virtual room before I forget. We will give you guys a PDF. Might take a day or two to respond to those, but do feel free to ask for it. Just some of my calls I've made over the last few years. I mean, I've been done very well calling turns in the market in at least the major turns on the service. And you can even check these things out publicly. You may have to dig a little bit, but it's out there. Just, quick disclaimer. I'll say, again, I'm making a case, but it's educational in nature and may not be right for you. So do your own research at the end of the day. I'll even give you some links to study up on your own and consider whether it's for you. Again, what's my main point? I think Bitcoin is a legitimate asset class that needs to be considered in any well-diversified portfolio, and you should consider it based on its benefits, which we'll talk about. Content, so I'll talk about why it should be part of your portfolio, ways to engage crypto market as a buyer, investor, trader. I will share my price forecasts and just some key areas to explore and learn. I'm also going to go into things like regulatory concerns and whatnot, which are sometimes very important to accredited investors. Bitcoin has matured as an accepted asset class with support from institutions. I'll expound on that. Regulation in respect to Bitcoin has achieved some clarity in the US. I think there's a lot of misnomers, and I'm going to kind of give you a flyby of regulation as it stands. Provides particular opportunity if the investor can capture volatility. Volatility has got to be your mindset if you're in this asset class, and you have to be sort of girded mentally, emotionally, and financially for that volatility, but it still presents a lot of opportunity. The means to hedge cash value is maturing. That may be very important to some of you who, you may take Bitcoin or crypto and put it on a cold wallet, which I'll briefly talk about, and then you may want to have some way of hedging that so you don't have to move that crypto around. It provides some safety in the event of financial system instability. Hopefully we never have to deal with that, at least not any worse than the 2007 timeframe, but we'll talk about that very briefly. Institutional support, institutional support's interesting because it's actually quite hard to quantify. But it's kind of like a lot of the services that started to outgrow from the crypto industry to serve the institutions in the 2017 timeframe really became sort of the evidence of that demand. And one of the big ones was the CME Bitcoin futures started in December 2017. It's a big contract, 5 Bitcoin. At the time, that was a $100,000 contract with some pretty tight collateral requirements. And so it really wasn't for the retailers. The retailers are still trading on the small exchanges, but it's there and it's grown since in volume and whatnot. So it was there by demand. There's a rise of the OTC liquidity provider, over-the-counter liquidity provider. These are companies that provide crypto in kind of in a way of not affecting price. So it's a negotiated value for the crypto, and it's passed between hands and between cold wallets and never touches the retail exchange. And that rose to serve institutions being able to purchase large quantities. Establishment of crypto security insurance products. You can now insure your cryptos if you're large enough. I have not looked into how much it costs. I have my own security protocols, but it's something to consider if you're into it big. And then established brands getting involved. I mean, Fidelity, as an example, and Fidelity's business in crypto is only institutional. They don't do retail trading of crypto. But they have a OTC as well as custody service as part of their offering for institutions and large players. Just to use an example, it's really hard to get data on how much the institutional OTC trade in crypto is. But this is just an example I pulled from the balance sheet of Galaxy Micro. They're one of the OTC providers. You can kind of see blue is their tradable, and that's and this is a little bit old, but I pulled it from the last couple years. I should update it, but the blue is their tradable investments or crypto, which is to say their interaction with clients. So these are the cryptos they buy on exchanges, collect using their algos or whatnot, and then our offerings for their institutional clients. And then investment, the red, is what they consider they're going to hold long term as a business. They are investing in crypto. You can kind of see how big it is, and this is just one player. So they're kind of playing with 100 million of the tradable. Up to 200 million in that region. I've heard that back when the dates on this chart were in play, that it was about 10 million per day in the OTC liquidity, and I got that from somebody that was part of the Galaxy Micro business. They were part of the company. I'm sure it's grown since then by a lot. And why am I saying all this? I mean, one thing what I want to say is this is an adopted asset class that institutions now are putting their blessing on and getting involved in. And so, basically, if you're not in crypto in some regard, you're kind of missing the entire asset class that's becoming established day by day, and is it really quite established. At least Bitcoin is quite established today. So just in terms of what do I mean by institutional support? The largest players in Bitcoin tend to fall in these groups, and this is a little bit happenstance from my sort of wanderings through conferences like the MoneyShow and other things I show up at, and investors I talk to, and hedge funds have come to me, talk to me, and this is kind of what I gather. Hedge funds and cryptocurrency hedge funds are the big players in crypto in terms of institution, and then next is family offices. In fact, I think the family offices somewhat compete with the hedge funds in this terms of space. Large, high net worth folks pulling their money together and have crypto in their portfolio. And then there are lots of services that serve those people. But we're seeing this new emerging area where corporations are starting to take their treasury, their assets on their book that are going to sit a bit and sort of bolster the balance sheet, and putting them into Bitcoin. And the main concern we've heard from those CEOs involved in that are that they're tired of the dollar losing its purchase power, and wanting to use Bitcoin as a store of value. It's pretty interesting to hear that. And to be honest, it scares me a little bit because these guys are hoarding. So take an example, MicroStrategy. Mike, you can follow the CEO on Twitter. He's all about Bitcoin, and I think they had bought 70,000 Bitcoin for their treasury, and they have so much. Even though MicroStrategy has a declining revenue, the chart of that stock, MSTR, looks like a Bitcoin chart, because it's almost becoming a Bitcoin fund. They have so much in terms of their overall net worth. Square, the large payments company, has got a large investment. I can't remember. I think it was near 15-20% of their treasury exposure was in Bitcoin, which is amazing. And then we have companies like PayPal that have gotten into it. So this area has been growing. And again, like I said, it scares me a bit because I don't want to see the liquidity get thin, because these guys basically hoard, buy without affecting the exchange price, and then put it away. But I mean, you basically, that's sort of a vote of confidence of Bitcoin. There's evidence that large multinational banks are trading crypto is very low. There's just not a whole lot that I've seen, or at least banks that are willing to admit that they are. Although it's interesting because JP Morgan just made a big purchase of MicroStrategy publicly, and that was their Bitcoin exposure. MicroStrategy is so Bitcoin exposed that JP Morgan counted it as a Bitcoin investment. I'm going to give you kind of a regulatory flyover, like I said, and just to give you a sense that regulatory, at least for Bitcoin, crypto as a whole is sort of another topic, but Bitcoin itself is fairly stable in terms of regulation. The SEC is basically punted to the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trade Commission, to manage Bitcoin, because by SEC terms, it's not a security token. It's not a security by the 1933 Securities Act. So hey, it's a commodity. That's basically that's what you're left with if it's not a security, and so the CFTC covers it. CFTC holds jurisdiction over Bitcoin and Ethereum, other coins deemed commodity. Again, there are some coins that end up getting deemed a security. I won't get into that, but basically SEC's hands off, CFTC's hands on. and CFTC holds approval over derivative products. They've even gone after foreign exchanges where they've allowed that has allowed U.S. retailers to get involved in, trying to shut those down, and meanwhile approving derivative exchanges here in the U.S., including the Chicago Mercantile. But there's a lot of lower level players that they've also approved. FinCEN, they care about money laundering. They're part of the treasury. They are interested in laundering standards. They make sure all the exchanges in the U.S. require your passport or driver's license. They know you are and where the source of funds are and whatnot, so that you are not money laundering. Just hot off the press, we are concerned that the FinCEN may start to require exchanges to know who owns the wallets they're sending to and from. And if you are participating in exchange, we might start getting questions. Kind of hoping with the new administration that gets released. That was a very much a Mnuchin play. The Treasury Secretary under Trump. Again, this is not political, my statements. I'm just saying who is pushing for what. But that is a concern, and hopefully that will let off the new administration. It's just burdensome, just really burdensome. And then finally, IRS wants your taxes. So, and you have to see it, just like anything, you've got to have records. Only an unfortunate area here, as I would say, crypto records from exchanges is really poor. And I wish the IRS would now come down and say, okay, give all your customers a 1099 at least, so that we have some better records. But the record keeping in crypto is pretty arduous, but got to do it to pay your taxes accurately. All right. So Bitcoin, like I said, it's volatile, but that is the opportunity. Just real quick here, despite the volatility of Bitcoin, I had the kind of unupdated chart the last time I presented, so I updated this last night. This is a 4-year Sharpe ratio. And if you understand the Sharpe ratio, it's basically risk-free return versus your volatility. And despite the volatility of Bitcoin, it still is ahead. It is the orange line at the top and has provided the best Sharpe ratio of gold, US stocks, US real estate, bonds, and emerging currencies. I don't know why emerging currencies on there. They used to have oil on there, it was more interesting, but anyway, it's got the best Sharpe ratio. Of course, I'm sure you can find some individual stocks like Tesla or something that has a higher price ratio, but based on the S&P 500, sorry, a better Sharpe ratio, but based on the S&P 500, you can see that Bitcoin is quite ahead, despite the volatility. And a lot of that's obviously because of how much return it's provide. Here's 1 year volatility. This chart was, no, I got this one it's a little bit old, but still the only thing that popped over Bitcoin was oil. If you guys are familiar with the oil debacle that happened many months ago, where it started going to zero. But other than that, Bitcoin is ahead in volatility. So you just have to embrace that as part of the asset class. There's lots, I teach a lot of, with my service, teach a lot of money management tricks when you're dealing with crypto. I personally trade crypto on leverage, but in short bursts, so that I'm not, killing myself and things like that. But I teach, even if you're not on leverage, I just teach people how to, fortify your emotions, but also do that by managing your money well when you're trading crypto. And I talk a lot about that. Correlation to SPX. This is just something I want people to be aware of, because there's been a myth about the correlation of Bitcoin to the US stock market. I'm just going to say simply, it comes and it goes. It's, and you can see this chart, you can see a high correlation and then negative correlation. So it just comes and goes. And so don't believe what you hear, just know that, and if you look at March 12th, 2020, where we had a liquidity crisis across many asset classes, everything correlated to one. Bitcoin went down, gold went down. I don't remember what happened to bonds because I don't watch them, but the US stock market went down, all in unison. So sometimes when you have those utility crises, it seems like everything's correlated, and that's just simply because everything is, or there's a rush to cash at those points in time. So, but just want to share this with you, and just, again, if you're going to be involved in this, you gotta, I'm not going to lie, it is really volatile. And to me as a trader, that's what I like, but it's not for everybody. Just the example of that volatility. This chart's not updated, but it's sort of August. It looks like October back to the top in January 2018. So October 2020 back to 2018 January. You can see the volatility. So 85% loss over 3 months, and 342% gain, and then a 72% loss and 176 gain. And I haven't put on I haven't updated this with the last lay we've had up here, which from this space here, which I actually gave a buy signal on my service at 11,299 because I had an algo that fired a buy signal, and here we are now today, we're up in the 30,000s. So it's incredible volatility, but if you did well, it's one of my jobs is to help people sort of gird themselves through these moves and to manage their money well so that they can take part in the breakout, which we have seen. Are we done? That's probably the next question. Some of you guys are looking at Bitcoin way up here and going, are we done? So I'm just going to give you a sense of my current price forecast. So I actually did not expect to start having a target for this rally at 150K, but I do. But I'm going to say it very clearly: we must hold 20,300. Right now, I updated this chart last night. It may be hard to see, but you guys can get a copy of it. We have a sideways correction, and we may actually have a bottom today. At least I'm tracking it as a bottom, and we'll see if it is undermined. But if we can hold that space, then the next target is 60K. Then we'll have another correction and before we get to 150K. So we are in this phase. This is the Elliott Wave theory, these labels, if you're familiar with it. If you're not familiar with it, you can learn it on our site or pick up a book on the Elliott Wave theory. But the 4s and 5s, as we call them, which are the fourth of this third and the fourth of this entire structure, is where you kind of rattle back and forth. But what's so interesting about Bitcoin is the ranges we're talking about, which are based on Fibonacci cycles, projections, are basically $30,000 range. So we're going to be in this sort of up and down $30,000 range. So again, it is my job to help people navigate that. I'm up for the task. I've done it before, and that's what we're dealing with over the next few years. But the culmination should be in the 150,000 range, unless support breaks that I'll be identifying as we go, which right now is 20,300. After that, we should have a bear market that should be substantial. This looks short, but it may be 2 to 3 years. And then I have finally targets exceeding 250K eventually. And this is, if you're familiar with Elliott Wave theory, that's that primary fifth wave, the last move before an even larger bear market. It's all fractal in nature. And it could be much above 250K, because in its history, the Bitcoin likes to extend its fifth wave, a lot like gold. Gold does the same thing. Anyway, so Bitcoin and financial crisis. This may be less important to U.S. customers, but we should all think about these things. I'm very aware of what's been going on in other countries and how they've been using Bitcoin. So just be aware of this. You never know. The whole point of Bitcoin is to allow transactions without a middleman. I can, let's say you want to buy a car from someone down the street, you can transfer Bitcoin to them if you wanted to. We haven't seen this, the payments fully born, but people have bought houses with Bitcoin. They've bought Teslas with Bitcoin. We've seen that happen, but none of those transactions are done with banks, or they don't have to be. That was the main point. If you read the Satoshi white paper, which is the paper that began the creation of Bitcoin, that was the whole point. Bitcoin can be transacted as long as the internet is up. So you can see how that's valuable in some countries that have seen disruption, bank runs, etc. An interesting tidbit I've spoken with people in Argentina, and how it's gone in Argentina with currency. A lot of the businesses there are saying, hey, if you can give me Bitcoin, that'd be great. And they're just dealing with problems in the banking system. Again, Bitcoin is safe from central bank inflation. It has an inflation rate, but it's set in code and transparent and cannot be changed. Bitcoin is locationless, and what I mean by that is if you have your keys, so Bitcoin never resides on your computer. You may have a wallet on your computer, but that's only a place to house the keys. And so if you have your keys, you can basically trash your computer, go walk over to another country, and get your keys into a computer, and then there's your Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is actually in what's called the distributed ledger, which is sort of out in the cloud and the internet. So it's locationless. A lot of people don't understand that. So now people have lost hard drives and lost Bitcoin, but that's because they didn't have their keys stored in their head or stored in a piece of paper somewhere. When they threw away their computer into landfill. I think there's a landfill somewhere with thousands of Bitcoin that I've heard about, something like $1 billion worth. It's a lot less cumbersome than dealing with physical gold. I mean, again, back to financial crisis, that's huge. And in recent history, we've seen citizens of Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and Hong Kong found use of Bitcoin to secure and move wealth out of the company. So I call it out of the country. So I call that refugee capital. They're running with their funds, and a lot of those people in those countries used Bitcoin to make that happen. Now, I'm not saying break the law, because in the U.S. we have strict capital controls in terms of taxation for customs and all that stuff. I'll let you deal with that if you ever come to this situation. But I'm just saying you can as a physical as a physical capability. But I'm not saying that you should dodge laws. That's up to you. Just ways to engage. So, again, it depends on your size. So if you're, I'm not a giant Bitcoin trader. I have a decent amount, and I've been doing this in a while, but I still use the retail exchanges. I don't use third party, and you can do the same. So here are the accounts that I use that work quite well. In fact, I should put another business on there, which is BlockFi. BlockFi, actually, you can buy Bitcoin and then earn interest on it, which is pretty cool. And I just opened my account there, and I'm going to kind of take some of my non-trading Bitcoin and put it in there and get some interest on it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 6.9% right now, which is really good. And then you can just, stack up more Bitcoin with that, or take that cash and go do something else. Bitcoin.com is sort of the original way people would buy Bitcoin with a credit card or with a bank, and then you can build a wallet there that you can get your keys and all that stuff. That's sort of the simple old school way, but I find the exchanges a little bit easier, especially if you're familiar with the brokerage account. If you don't want to deal with the sort of quote unquote physical Bitcoin, you can use CME futures. Actually, you can use BOCT as well. That's I have interactive. See, I have my TradeStation account. I can do CME and then the BOCT. CME is a 5 Bitcoin contract, and then BOCT is 1 Bitcoin. It's a lot smaller and manageable. That's a way to do it if you don't want to mess with physical Bitcoin. And then if you're really large, you can call up an OTC liquidity provider, and they'll take care of custody for you. So Galaxy Digital, Cumberland, depending on how large you are, you might call Fidelity as well. I should put them on there. And these are all blue because you can use my presentation and tap the links to those sites. And then finally, there's the Grayscale Investments. It's an OTC stock called GBTC. It's the Bitcoin Trust. It sells at a premium, although that premium is really low today because of the correction we've had. The premium tends to fluctuate with the market price of Bitcoin. And that's simply because it's not an ETF where the NAV is managed. It's whatever the buyers want to pay for it will affect its premium. And premium ranges from, it was 2% yesterday, and then it can go to as high as 25% when it's hot. It's an OTC stock, but it's highly liquid. And I cover this in the service as well, because some of my subscribers just trade that. So I have algo signals on it, as well as just using Elliott Wave analysis on it, and we've done very well with it. So that is an option for some of you. Just over, in terms of hedging crypto, and again, this is if you want to buy crypto, put it in a cold wallet where basically you put the key in a safe. And a cold wallet is where you don't have it on a wallet on your computer. You don't even open it unless you want to send the Bitcoin somewhere, and you just keep the keys in your safe or wherever is secure. You can always hedge your crypto using, and again, this is largely for large players, but the Chicago Mercantile, again, CME futures, you can get that 5 Bitcoin contract. BOCT is fully collateralized 1 Bitcoin. And then LedgerX is a very small exchange, actually just 0.01 Bitcoin. In terms of their futures, as well as it's fully collateralized. Actually, and I need to correct this. I just learned that BOCT is not fully collateralized. You can do it with 40% margin. Anyway, and then all 3 of those have options. And generally, the only real liquid options here is CME. I trade sometimes on LedgerX with these tiny contracts if I want to hedge a small trade or something, but it's really not that liquid. And then the BOCT options hardly ever trade. So if you really want to do options, really, I suggest CME. And my TradeStation account has access to it. Not all brokers do. Just further exploration for you. If this is all new to you, how to send and receive Bitcoin is kind of a skill you need to learn. And there's a link for you. Bitcoin trading for beginners. That's actually a webinar I did a long time ago. Sort of oldie but goodie. How to keep secure. This is a PDF that I drew up. I would just start with that and then explore some more advanced security by just researching YouTube. But even if you just at a basic level take my advice in this paper, you should be more secure than a lot of people. The Satoshi Nakamoto white paper. Satoshi Nakamoto is the author of this white paper. We don't really know who he is. We've had lots of people claim that they are Satoshi Nakamoto, but haven't given sufficient evidence. mystery man, basically, but he was the creator of Bitcoin, and it kind of took off by the community. And then finally, Grayscale reports are really great. Grayscale Investments is the company behind GBTC, the OTC stock fund, trust fund. Their reports are great. So that link right there should get you subscribed, and I would be reading those if you are new to Bitcoin and want to learn. Pretty interesting. There's all sorts of podcasts and things that depending on how deep you want to go, I can go on and on about this list in the Bitcoin world, but these are some top 5 links that can get you started. And that is it. You can get a free trial on ElliottWaveTrader. Again, if you prefer SA, Seeking Alpha, that service should start soon. And then you can also follow me on Twitter if you want to just. I'll post occasional, musings as well as price discussion at times. So you can follow me there. And that's it. I will take questions.
Hey, Ryan.
Yep.
Can you hear us okay?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, fantastic presentation. A lot of questions coming through. Would you mind if we kind of did a rapid fire, maybe spend 10, 15 seconds per question if possible, and we'll try to get through as many as we can?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, let's jump to our first question. Wow, a lot of questions. First viewer writes in, is there any company that makes transaction fee for every Bitcoin or crypto transaction?
I'm pretty sure the exchanges siphon off a little bit. So if you're sending crypto from an exchange, you are paying a fee. So I do that all the time. But actually some of that fee goes to the miners. Miners are the folks crunching with our computers dedicated to network crunching the transactions. And actually a lot of that fee goes there. So it can fluctuate by what they call network difficulty. When there's a lot of transactions, the fees behind Bitcoin goes up. But again, those fees are sort of keeping the network healthy. It's part of the community, and sharing with those that, again, have dedicated very expensive machines to calculating Bitcoin transactions.
Excellent, thank you. What are your thoughts on government shutting down Bitcoin completely?
That's a constant question, and we've been talking about it for years. And if you go back to my regulation discussion, the government is already making tons and tons and tons of tax money off of crypto through exchanges, through individuals themselves and the IRS, through big firms trading and paying taxes as well. I have a hard time believing it. Now, I do know they want to tighten controls to prevent money laundering. The reality is that cash is a lot easier to launder money. Bitcoin is not a anonymous transaction. The government knows now how to figure out who owns what address if they want to work hard enough, and they have caught a lot of criminals that way. So I see them bolstering that in terms of, could they shut it down? They could. I mean, Muchin did not like crypto, and he certainly could have worked really hard to try to get that. But a lot of Congress people are on the complete other side of that from him. There's a lot of congressmen and women have said, okay, this is how much crypto I own, and it actually admitted to it. So there's a lot of pro crypto people in Congress on both sides of the aisle. So
excellent, thank you. Our next viewer, Michael, writes in, your thoughts on Ethereum as being an even better buy than Bitcoin. What place do altcoins have for a portfolio? Which altcoins are your favorite and why?
I'm not a fan of altcoins as hodls. Hodls being holding, that's the crypto word for it. Because if you open up almost any chart long term of take Ethereum versus Bitcoin, it's a sideways slosh. If you open up Ripple as another one, it's a downward trend versus Bitcoin. So I'm a chart reader. I'm not going to buy a downtrend. Now, do I trade Ethereum? Yeah, I trade it very regularly and often on leverage, and it has times. But my job is to figure out when it's going to outperform Bitcoin for a period of time before it reverts back, and then change that holding, and that's my job, and that's the way I trade them. So I mean, I like, the problem with saying my favorites is my favorites might be this week because I'm a short-term trader and a swing trader, and the only crypto I hold long term is Bitcoin. So this week I'm liking Link, I'm liking Dot. I have an Ethereum position right now for a short period of time. I expect Ethereum to hit 2,000 in the next few weeks to a month, maybe 2 months, and so I'm in for that. But again, that's short-term stuff for me. So excellent. Yeah, it'll change.
Excellent, thank you. What are your thoughts on effect on GBTC when pure Bitcoin ETF comes online?
I think it will be, well, one, the premium will probably be obliterated, but like yesterday, the premium was only 6% and actually 2%, sorry, at the low yesterday. And because I tracked that on the service. So that's not much to obliterate. It's like, who cares? Grayscale is here to stay because they're a big custody. They're the largest custody provider of Bitcoin in the world, as far as I remember. They're huge. They're not going away. So that fund will not go away, but the premium might be under pressure. But honestly, like if you buy the fund at 10%, and if you buy at the right time, it doesn't matter because, like my next price target right now in GBTC is 60. Right now it's 33. That's when Bitcoin hits 60K. That seems to work out funny that way, 60K and 60, but who cares about 10% premium in that situation? So I don't worry about it. My job is to get in and out of GBTC in my brokerage account and help others do the same as close as possible, so that range is captured. Again, never a perfect top, never a perfect bottom, but getting a bit of that trend, enough of that trend to make money. That's my job, and I don't really care about the ETF discussion now, policy-wise. And you might want to start reading some of the valuation reports from the SEC on the Bitcoin. There will have to be some big changes at the SEC to actually approve a Bitcoin ETF, and I won't go into that. It's sort of in depth. But I would just read the report announcements when the next time a Bitcoin ETF fails to get their approval.
Thanks, Ryan.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so two big things that I know the audience wants. One, how can they get access to your presentation slide? A lot of viewers wrote in that they were having issues seeing the blue type in the presentation of the chart. They were having issues.
They just put the information request in the virtual room. And we'll get that. We'll get that, and we'll send it out.
So the Elliott Wave Trader booth is what you're asking for?
Yeah. I don't remember the process on their end,
Yep.
Jordan. But I mean, last time we got tons of emails, so it's the same process. It should be out there.
No worries. All right, so let me just tell the audience what to do. If you go to the virtual hall into the event platform, which is on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see virtual hall, and you go and look for the Elliott Wave Trader booth, or actually you're in the Elliott Wave Trader booth right now. I apologize. Just go actually scroll down. You see the request information on the right-hand side. So on the page you are right now, and if you just fill that out, Ryan and his team will get back to you with the slides, and as well as any other information on their services and subscriptions. Is that correct, Ryan?
Yep. Yeah. It'll take a couple of days for us to kind of get through all of it, but yeah.
Absolutely. And the recording will be available on demand on MoneyShow.com in just a few business days after the event is over. And Ryan, can you just share with the audience again, what is the cost of your subscription currently right now? And is there details about the new product sister company that you're coming out with?
$99 a month is what it is on Elliott Wave Trader, and then it should be the same on SA, seekingalpha.com. So most people are familiar with seekingalpha.com. It's one of the biggest investment sites now, and so that one is pending in terms of launch date. But again, we're giving away free trials, and then it just I cover any chart you want. I cover Bitcoin regularly. I do a nightly report, and then a Saturday webinar, which is recorded if you don't want to hang out with me on Saturday. But I get a lot of people coming to the webinars on Saturday, and that's kind of what we do. And then algo signals as well, which are still building out, but I've got a few that are active.
Awesome. All right, Ryan. Well, we really appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know our audience appreciated it as well, and hopefully see you at a Money Show future, maybe in person.
Yeah, hopefully we're almost there.
Yep, absolutely, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining us today. Be well.
Yep, too.